Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and iOS 16.5 RC or release candidate has been out for a few days. I've been using it full time on my 14 Pro Max and iPad Pro M2, and I wanted to take a look at the overall experience, not just my experience, but your experience based off the YouTube community poll, where at the time of this video, there's over 8,300 votes and 139 comments. So we'll take a look at some of those comments a little bit later. We'll also talk about not just experience, but bugs, battery life, some Apple news, and also what to expect with the next versions of iOS, since we should have concurrent betas going at the same time with iOS 16.6 and iOS 17. Now, as far as new releases or the current releases, iOS 16.4.1 has been out for quite a while. It still has weather issues though. Quite a few people have mentioned to me that there's still issues with weather, and Apple hasn't resolved this yet. Even though they fixed it technically on the back end, it seems that it's just not accurate for some people. I don't know if they changed data sources or something else, but I've noticed lately that the information doesn't seem to be as accurate as it usually was. So something may have changed there. Let me know your experience in the comments below, but it seems to have gotten worse over time. Now, one thing I wanted to mention that was released with iOS 16.5 RC was the new Pride wallpaper. And the reason I want to mention this is because this wallpaper has some features I would love to see brought back for all wallpaper. So as I may have showed you before, if you swipe up and down, you can see that it actually has motion to it. Not only that, but it responds to light and dark mode. That's something we haven't seen for a while, and I think Apple should bring back to all their wallpapers. So I would love to see them bring those back and have us have the option to use those on any wallpaper. Light and dark modes again, motion when you swipe into the notification center. Hopefully they bring those back. Now, as far as those who applied to WWDC as the Swift Student Challenges, they've actually been notified by Apple if they've won. So you can see some of these people on Twitter actually posted that they won. And you can see on Twitter, Vedant posted that they actually won the Swift Student Challenge again. So congratulations, and that's great. We should have WWDC 23 very soon, and they've been selected, as you can see here, with more information. So they'll actually receive WWDC 23 outerwear, AirPods Pro, and a customized pin set at the mailing address provided on their submission form. So that's great to have sort of a limited edition set that they're sending out. Now, also, WhatsApp actually had some issues this week where people posted about it actually listening in the background. And again, back on Twitter, you can see this was posted by Fode Debiri, where it says WhatsApp has been using the microphone in the background while I was asleep and since I woke up at 6 a.m. And that's just part of the timeline. What's going on? Now, I typically recommend you actually turn off the microphone for WhatsApp unless you use the voice features over and over. You can do that in your settings under privacy and security, and then go down to microphone and make sure that you actually turn it off. Not just WhatsApp, but pretty much anything owned by Meta. Instagram and Facebook I typically turn off just so they can't listen. That user was actually on Android, so we may be more secure on iOS. We don't really know. But either way, I just wanted to make you aware of that and make sure you turn off the microphone if it's something you don't use as far as voice-to-text features within WhatsApp. Now, one thing I was really excited about this week, and I've mentioned in another video, is Final Cut Pro and Logic Pro was announced for iPad. This is something I've wanted for a very long time. I'm finally excited about some new apps coming to iPad, and I could probably use this as my main device. I use this pretty much for everything other than maybe editing video. So now if I can edit video on this, plug it into a monitor, a studio display, and then just edit here, I can have it on the go with everything ready to go with me. Of course, I can use a MacBook for that, but there's something about having the touch interface, new pen tools with text, and more. So it is $5 a month for either one of them or $50 a year, but you at least get a trial and I'll see if it's worth it. But if it's the full-fledged Final Cut Pro, it's definitely seemingly worth it compared to many other editors out there. Now, Apple is moving its original Tyson's Corner store to a new location within the same area or in the same mall. This is actually set to open pretty soon on May 19th. So that's something that's been a long time actually in the works and should have a new redesign. There's a new logo here with a bunch of different apple slices in the rainbow color, and hopefully it'll be open pretty soon. If you're in that area and you can take any images, although probably people will post those online anyway, I would love to see what the new store looks like. Now, as far as app updates this week, Shazam got an update in that it can now recommend, or recognize rather, classical music. So it can now work with Apple Music Classical, recognizing different classical music, and then telling you what it is. So it's just a small update, but make sure you install it. You'll see I haven't opened it since, but it now can recognize that music. Now, one app that's actually going away soon is Facebook Messenger on Apple Watch. It will be discontinued at the end of May, according to Meta. They said you'll actually still get notifications about messages on your Apple Watch, but you won't be able to reply to them. I'm not sure why they're doing this. Maybe they're pushing people toward WhatsApp or something else, but it will no longer be available. Also, if you're a Hulu subscriber, Hulu will actually merge with Disney Plus soon. So that's something that's going to become one app instead of two separate apps with all of the shows on both places or from both places in one place. So that's something that looks like it will be good. I'm not sure that it makes much of a difference. I've used both services and they both work fine, but having them in one place is just one less app to have. Now, as far as new releases this past week, of course, we had 16.5 RC and all the other RCs, as well as old versions as well, such as macOS 11.7.7, 12.6.6, and even iOS 15.7.6 RC. However, macOS 13.4 RC actually got an additional release candidate on Thursday. We had release candidate 2 released, so they must have found a bug that was critical enough to release a second release candidate. And that actually leads me to 16.5, as we're expecting a release this coming Monday. Typically when Apple releases updates, it's on a Monday, so I would expect it on the 15th. That seems most likely. We don't know that for sure, but it seems likely based on what they've done in the past. And this doesn't seem to need an RC2. However, we could have a new build number if they fix something else, or it could be the same. Of course, then we'll move on to the next version of iOS 16.6 Beta 1, so we'll probably have that for a couple weeks, and then on June 5th, of course, iOS 17. So we'll run those concurrently, of course, until the final release or the public release of iOS 17, typically in September before iPhone. Then the iOS 16 updates go away as far as new features and just have security and bug fixes in them. Now, iOS 16.5 in general is pretty sparse. I'm surprised this is actually a major update, as it has that sports section in news, that Pride wallpaper, and some bug fixes, but not really a ton of bug fixes that many of us wanted. So we have a few things here, some wording changes, but nothing really major. So hopefully we'll see maybe something else if they want to release it, or they can push it on the server side. But either way, it's not that big of an update, unfortunately. Now, also a couple things I wanted to mention as far as iPhone 15 we've heard a little bit about. Future iPhones apparently will finally gain micro LED displays according to DigiTimes by 2024 or 2025. We've heard that they were coming to iPhone, Apple Watch, and also iPad eventually, but it seems like Apple's having a hard time with this, as we have mini LED but not micro LED. Micro LED is the next step past OLED, where it has better color accuracy and brightness and will last a little bit better over time and be low power. It can turn off its pixels just like OLED, but should last a little bit longer. So I can't wait for that. Hopefully it deals with issues such as PWM, and hopefully they can get it to work properly. They also said that they're going to have a slightly larger display in 2024. This is according to Ross Young, with a 6.3-inch and 6.9-inch display on the Pro models. So that seems to be likely. If they shrink the bezels down, they can increase it just a little bit, similar to what you get on an S23 Ultra. Similar size device, smaller bezels, give a little bit bigger screen size. So not a huge increase, but it looks like that seems plausible. As far as iOS 17, well, I don't want to talk about it much, as I talked about it yesterday in quite a bit of depth as far as legitimate rumors and leaks and ones that may not be. So be sure to check that out if you haven't already, but I'm looking forward to some new features, as it's been pretty sparse for a while. Now, as far as the overall iOS 16.5 RC experience, and if it's ready, well, so far it's pretty stable. Depending on who you ask in the YouTube community poll, it's been a very different experience. I'll share that a little bit later, but the overall experience is fluid and smooth, no issues here. Most bugs seem to be fixed for most people, but there are a few things that are still remaining. One in particular is some people are experiencing it just heating up out of nowhere. Max Weinbach on Twitter actually posted that his was throttling and slowing down. So let me show you that. And as you can see, Max Weinbach shared a video showing that it actually throttles quite a bit. So it throttles when you're actually going through video, You'll see there it slowed down quite a bit and said it was quite hot. It wasn't managing thermals very well, and it was about 70 degrees Fahrenheit in his car. It was sitting in his cup holder. I asked him afterward, and it was getting really hot for no reason. It wasn't in direct sunlight or anything. Apple really needs to fix this issue, as it seems to be a problem for some people out of nowhere. Personally, I've had no issues with performance overall or anything with this as far as that goes, and I've really had no issues as far as heat, but some people have out of nowhere for no reason. When it comes to Bluetooth, Bluetooth was better for me on beta 4. For some reason, it seems to lose connection quite a bit when I'm listening to music, and I definitely need to charge the AirPods case. But even connecting to my car, when it connects via Bluetooth, sometimes it takes a while, sometimes it doesn't connect at all, and I actually have to turn on airplane mode, turn it off, and then it will connect. I don't know if it's a combination of things between this and my vehicle, or if it's just iOS, but with beta 4 it didn't seem to do it. Also, CarPlay seems to connect okay wirelessly for me on this, so in one of my cars I can connect via CarPlay, and it seems to work well. I've just had an issue with the other car, so when I'm not using CarPlay, sometimes it doesn't work as well. Also, the notification bug is still there. So if we pull down the notification drawer here or shade, it's not really going to show it here, but when I pull down, sometimes it's just stuttery if there's notifications and it just doesn't work properly. I don't really have any as I've cleared them, but it just doesn't work as you would expect. Also, the health app still gives me an issue. I've shared this before, but under Browse, if we go to Medications and Log, it crashes every time you tap on it. So I've reported this in feedback. And it's not that big of a deal, as it doesn't actually affect putting in the medication. It's just the log file about the medication. So I can't get rid of this. I can't press on it and get rid of it. It's just a continual issue for me. Also, the wake-up delay on iPhone 13 Pro phones seems to still be there. Now, I haven't personally experienced this as I use a 14 Pro Max, but I just experienced it right before this video on the iPad Pro. I couldn't get it to turn on, it was delayed, and then it finally turned on. So there's definitely some odd issues here and there. And also, as far as the camera is concerned, I don't think Apple's really addressed anything there. I'm not convinced that they will at this point. There's been videos, not only by myself, but other creators as well, talking about it. I don't think they really either care, or maybe they just don't see it as an issue and it's working as they intended. I think it's overprocessed in certain situations. The HDR is too saturated in my opinion, and there's some issues with the camera overall. Some people are really happy with it, others aren't, but it depends who you ask. Now, if you're wondering if you should install iOS 16.5 RC, well, if you're wanting to install the public version, this is typically going to be the public version that releases. So if you want to install it, this would be the time. It's possible that the public one would be a different build number. If it is, you'll just have an update. And if you want to leave the betas, you can do that after the public one is out, just by going into your settings, going to General, Software Update, and then once it shows up as the beta updates, you can just turn that off. Then you'll be able to no longer get the public beta or the developer beta, and you'll be on the public version. Now, as far as overall battery life on this, well, I've been using it full time, and it seems to be okay. It depends who you actually ask, but if we go into settings and then we go to battery, and then battery health and charging, I'm down to 97%, and you can see here I have 180 cycles total at this point. 80% after 2 years is normal according to Apple, so we're on track to keep 90% at least by the time September rolls around. It's not as good as it was last year as far as battery health, but I think they actually put a little bit of a buffer there compared to what the battery readout is. That could be wrong, but either way, I had 100% all the way up until late August this past year. Now, as far as battery life itself, if we take a look at the last 10 days, yesterday I used over 75% of the battery and had only 4 hours and 27 minutes of screen active time. I had 10 hours and 20 minutes of screen idle time for whatever reason. I have background activity off, but music was still using it. The day before, similar, I had 4 hours and 9 minutes. So it really hasn't been great battery life overall. Some people say it's phenomenal, other people don't. It just depends on who you ask. And Abhishek sent in his battery, and he has that here. He sent it to me on Instagram, and you can see here with an 11 Pro Max with 95% battery health, he had 3 hours and 16 minutes of screen on time, 32 minutes of screen off time, and used about 45% of his battery. So it's doing okay. I would say it's not great compared to iOS 15, but as far as iOS 16, it seems to be pretty decent depending on who you ask. Now, like I mentioned, the overall performance seems to be good, ProMotion is nice and smooth, and older devices seem to be performing really well. Many people have said this over and over. Other than if you're having a heat issue with throttling, it seems to be working really well depending on what you're doing. If you're just scrolling through apps and different things, it's going to be nice and fast. If you're playing games, it should perform as you would expect and seems to be pretty decent overall. Apple's done a good job. If you want to snap a picture quickly, you can do that. Everything seems to be really fast, even on older devices. Now, as far as overall comments and what you had to say about the experience, let's go ahead and take a look at that. Colin1.c Apple Tech says, "Hi, I have iOS 16.5 RC installed on my iPhone XS. After using it for about 42 hours, it seems like the battery life has improved. No static or lag when using AirPods Pro 2 with the phone, and cellular is better too. Love your videos. Thank you." Chris Parmer 4983 said, "I'm running iOS 16.5 RC on my iPhone 14 Pro. Overall, excellent battery life and no noticeable bugs. Perhaps this update will renew my confidence in Apple. I typed this comment using an Samsung S23 Ultra, which is a direct reflection on my impression of iOS 16 as a whole. It has not been the smooth and polished software implementation that I have come to expect from Apple. Maybe iOS 17 will start off a renewed standard of excellence. We shall see. I will remain skeptical until I'm proven wrong." Andy Schuler Vlog said, "I'm running iOS 16.5 RC on my iPhone XR and my iPhone 8, and they're working great. I'm running iOS 16.5 RC. The battery life doesn't seem to be that great compared to 16.4.1. For 16.5 RC as being incredible. I thought that iOS 16 would never improve. This has been the best update I've had from iOS 16. I have no heating. I've not seen lag so far. Spotlight works well. The lock screen works well. So far, I have not seen inconsistencies in the notifications, and battery seems to improve as well. iPhone XS." And so that's everything with iOS 16.5 RC. And is it ready? Well, at this point, I think it is for an iOS update. Compared to previous updates, it seems to be very stable with the exception of a few different things a few people have been experiencing. Not everyone has bad experiences, not everyone has great experiences. But either way, I think it's much better, and I hope iOS 17 really brings Apple back to the level where it used to be. Let me know if you've found anything new in iOS 16.5 or what you would like to see from Apple, and of course I'll link this wallpaper in the description like I normally do. If you haven't subscribed already though, please subscribe, and if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.